Okay, cool. Here we go. Hello and welcome again. This is Gertrude Mache this week, here with another amazing thought leader who will be talking to us about his new book called I Dare You. Now, I know that a lot of you authors are out there struggling with your books, trying to find ways and think of ways to actually market and sell and promote yourselves. JD or John Dean is based in Australia, in Sydney, and he's going to be sharing with us a few ideas that he has shared in his upcoming best-selling book called I Dare You. JD, welcome.
Gertrude, thank you for taking the time and interviewing me in that lovely introduction.
What is Australia like today?
It's beautiful 1 minute, gorgeous the next. So it's a lovely, sunny, hot day, a good day to sell.
Fantastic. So JD, tell us about your book, I Dare You. A lot of authors out there are sitting back right now trying to find ways to market and promote themselves as authors and speakers and to sell their books for Christmas. Let's go through the process of what you would recommend someone should do if they had a product like a book and they were trying to self-promote.
So the first thing to start thinking about is jump out of your head, out of the author's head or the seller's head, and jump into the reader's head or the buyer's head. So if you were to figure out about what they think about, what they want to do, how they want to solve the particular problem that you're solving, or you want to connect with them in that fashion, then that's going to start to get you down the path of contemplating what is it they really want to know, what does that look like, rather than what is it that I'm trying to tell. Selling isn't telling. It hasn't been about telling for a long time. Selling is about asking clever and insightful questions. So what questions, like I dare you, which is, I guess, a statement, but what questions are going to prompt your reader or your potential buyer to go ahead and want to understand more about your insights?
So you're basically saying that before you even start selling, you need to understand your potential reader really well. You need to understand what their pain is and see if you can address it through the content that you've produced. Is that correct?
Yeah. In fact, one of the concepts in our book is that stop tracking the sales process, stop tracking how you're selling, start thinking about how someone's going to buy from you. So what does that look like? What issues and challenges do they have? What do they need to do in order to make that buying decision? And how do you help them down that path? It's really not about whatever your product or content is. It's about that solution piece to what they want to understand and what they want to know.
So does timing play a part in this process, do you think? Because sometimes you can approach someone with an amazing product, with amazing ideas, and if they're just not ready to buy at that moment in time, they won't, correct?
It's true, and one of the things that we talk to a lot of salespeople about is a lot of people that we've done work with over the past 10 years have a product or a service that is very relevant to the marketplace, very relevant to the person they're talking to, but essentially the timing is bad. And we talk in the book around how to understand what that timing looks like or qualify the opportunity better, so that you're not wasting time on those people that are going to buy, just not now. So how do you figure that out? What does that look like? And how do I get a trigger to know that when you are ready, I want to come back and have this conversation at that stage, not right now. So one of the things we talk about is the top 5 reasons. What are the top 5 problems you're trying to solve? If one of them is not things that are involved in something that I'm providing, then I need to come back when that is relevant.
So basically in your conversation with your readers, and the conversation could be on your website, when somebody lands on your website and is looking for your content, you need to have those top 5 questions answered or really clear so that the potential reader can actually see the value in purchasing your book. Is that correct?
Yeah, it needs to be, I'm going to take a step further than that. It needs to be all your social media. Everything needs to be supporting your common message of who you want to talk to, what problems they have, and if they have that, you're in the right spot. And then it's our mission to understand where they're at in that thing. There's a book by a guy called Hugh McFarlane talking about the buyer's journey. So if you're taking someone in that journey from unaware to aware, yeah, I get I've got that problem, then they're probably too early. There's probably 2 or 3 more steps they need to take in order to make a buying decision. So you want to understand where they're at in that journey and then have a relevant question or comment to them. So if I'm unaware I've got a problem, you want to make me aware, then you want me to start researching, then you want me to evaluate, then you want me to make a buying decision. So at every step in that stage you would have potentially a different message for that person. So your social media should drive and understand all those component parts.
Okay, so one of the things that I've learned from you with regards to social media is you said to me something really interesting when you went onto my LinkedIn page. You said that your LinkedIn page should actually be an advertisement of who you are. And I had very generic things on my LinkedIn page. I had links to my previous businesses that were totally irrelevant to what I was actually doing now. So just walk me through those steps. You know, what should I actually have on my LinkedIn profile that says, you know, who I am and what I'm selling as an author?
So let me give you the free ski lesson. When you're on a ski lift and you see a ski instructor underneath you, that's a free ski lesson, right? Go to LinkedIn experts on LinkedIn. You can easily find and search for their pages and have a look at their page, see what's common in 3 or 4 LinkedIn experts or people that services. What you'll find is that their first couple of lines in it are trying to understand if you have this problem, if you're a business owner, if you're a sales rep, if you're a whatever it is that you sell, then you're in the right spot. We help you with these sort of issues. So again, you not only know that I'm in the right spot, then I know that I've got the right sort of issue. So their websites more reflect almost the honey that they want to get to catch someone, rather than, hey, I've done this, I'm responsible for, I do this, I have this many people, we have this type of business. That's all about the what. So it's around how do we put the doormat out for someone to land on really nicely and understand they're in the right spot and I can help them solve their problem. And then how do we reflect that on all the media pieces, the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Pinterest, Google, YouTube, etc., etc. So how do we replicate that everywhere so we've got a really common message?
One of the things that you talk about very clearly in your book is about your sales brand. A lot of authors and speakers go into the business without really looking at themselves as a commodity or a product, and they don't create a very strong personal brand about themselves or their book. Can you talk a little bit about sales brand?
Yeah, thank you. It's an interesting topic. We've been very blessed that some of the larger corporates that we've done some work with have taken sales brand and turned it into their internal development plan pieces. So sales brand is 4 different components. What is your commit brand? What is your personal brand? What is your internal brand? How are you seen internally? And then within the business or within your community? And then what is your customer brand? What does a customer think of you? And we get people to then write down against those 4 things what they're doing to harm their brand and what they're doing to improve their brand. So the baseline for that is, in a commoditized marketplace, your brand is your differentiator. So what do you do to be different? And I know, Gertrude, that you have a series of things that you do already to be different in terms of the way you dress, the covers of your books, your websites, etc. So as do I. Every time I have a speaking appointment, I either wear purple or pink, so that's part of my brand. Most people don't know that if you don't say it, but your brand is a whole variety of things. When you turn up, what do you know about the customer? It's a whole variety of things, but yeah, sales brand is a really interesting concept that's been picked up by several corporates.
And so you actually work as a consultant in that area, is that correct?
Yeah, so we have 4 very large brands currently, as I said, that have implemented part of the sales brand in their development plans for their people. So they're looking at it not only as who you are as a salesperson, but they're also putting it throughout their organisations and talking to people about what you're going to do to improve. How are you seen internally in a large corporation? What do people think of you? And then how do you harm that, and how do you improve that? So really important from a business perspective of differentiating yourselves. One of the things that we believe is everyone is actually a salesperson. Everything you do is about selling your knowledge, your skills, your background, your experiences, all that thing. So how do you package that up in a neat fashion continually?
Yes. Yeah. Now, one of the really interesting things that I've observed you doing, JD, as you were writing your book, you were actually pre-selling the book. Let's talk a little bit about pre-selling of products and why that's important to get people excited and interested in your book while you're actually writing it. A lot of authors wait until they're finished and then they start reacting and responding. Why did you start pre-selling your book before it was finished?
So for two reasons. One is the book is part of a multi-pronged approach or strategy I have to coming to market. And part of that is really just an excuse to go back to my existing client base and have something different to talk to them about. Secondly, it's a positioning thing for a lot of the people that I know. Thirdly, a lot of people that have seen me speak up until now haven't really had anything other than their own notes or subsequently engaging me. So it's really providing a 2, 3, 4-pronged approach to supporting some of the stuff they've already seen or done with me. And then it's just access to different marketplaces. So every time I meet a prospect now, I'll quote an excerpt from the book and send it to them. So just kind of supporting the whole piece of, this is not just something that I'm saying, this is something that I've spoken about, I've worked with over 300 businesses on, so it's all building that whole credibility piece within all people, from existing customers that know me to new prospects that don't yet know me but are about to engage unbeknownst to them.
Yes. So really what you're saying is people are getting a piece of you through this book, especially when you do presentations and talks and workshops. What you've succeeded in doing in packaging your content is, besides the notes that they scribble while you're speaking, they get to walk away with a piece of JD. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a real jogger. So there's a series of things to it. There's the book. There's creating a subscription website that's also going to support it. There's going to be group sessions and one-on-one sessions. So we're really providing a platform for people who listen to it, really like the concepts, and then really want to change their outcomes from a sales perspective. So how do we support them as effectively as we can? And maybe even for some of them, how do you support it when a business maybe not be prepared to make the investment of having a consultant come in, but I can make a personal investment in understanding more about it and continuing my own learning. So directing it at a variety of different people for a variety of different outcomes, but also ultimately challenge the way they think about selling.
Fantastic. Now, a lot of people will write a book and not actually realize that they can create a whole business around the book, that the content that they've produced can be sold in multiple ways. And you've mentioned the successful membership site. What else can you do with a book once it's finished?
Right. Well, there's first of all, I would suggest everyone get a phenomenal mentor to write a book. Very important part of doing anything new is to find someone who's already got the experience, enable them to do that, which is a large part of my clients coming to me. But also, so I went and did some work with you, obviously, on going through that process. But there's all manner of things that can come from the processes of the book. So it could be chapters that you're sending out, it could be blogs, it could be doing pulse updates on LinkedIn. There's also all manner of ways that you can be what I call a thought leader and start driving conversations that you're not having, conversations between other people. And that's ultimately the aim, I guess, for a lot of people with a book is how do I continue that process so that when I'm not in the room, there's some ongoing value.
Yes. Now, I know that you've got, in our conversation, you've talked about IP, that IP. Let's talk a little bit about intellectual property and thoughts and ideas. And you can actually see that is something you can monetize.
Yeah, can I get you to ask that again?
So I'm talking about IP, intellectual property,
Yep.
being converted into money. A lot of people don't realize that their ideas can be monetized. Let's talk a little bit about intellectual property and the importance of learning how to monetize what you know and being a thought leader, as you said.
So really interesting topic. Great question. One of the things that I've certainly seen a lot of, if I go back 10.5 years ago when I started Catalyst Consulting, I had a series of IP and I very zealously protected it. If you wanted to get a copy of it, you couldn't. I didn't want anyone to know about it. What I soon realized is that no matter what the content is, it's all the application and how you execute it. So if you want to get a copy of my content as by buying my book, then have a look, get it. If there's things you can use in there, great. If you need some assistance executing some of that, fantastic. A lot of the IP that people have, they don't realise how valuable it is to others. That it's just the simple idea of having a different approach on the same topic. It really isn't. It doesn't need to be rocket science. It doesn't need to be necessarily reinventing the wheel. It's just coming up with a series of concepts that actually help people. And I guess a really cool measure is when you talk to people, your friends, family, and colleagues. If you start solving issues or problem or giving them a different perspective, then you've got something of value. And commoditizing that is something that most people don't understand.
Yeah, no, definitely. So talk me through the journey of the step-by-step that an author should take to get their product to market. It's easy to sell a book, one off here and there. How do you keep your sales funnel filled with potential buyers?
So part of that is thinking about the wider community, the wider marketplace. How do I get better exposure? What does the book buy me from a credibility perspective that might take me places that I wouldn't otherwise go? So, for example, as now being known as an author, albeit with a book that is about to come out, I've had 2 or 3 opportunities appear in the past couple of weeks. The book's really only was written very quickly, literally took less than 4 weeks to get the content out. And already people have started speaking to me about opportunities that are coming up. From a Christmas perspective, I'm talking to people about how do you give someone a present which is going to make them some more money in the next 12 months. So it's all about thinking about that wider marketplace. How do you get access to it? How do you help people fundamentally solve some of the problems that you can help them with?
I think for an activity, I'm not sure if that is on my side or on. Can you hear?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. You there? I'm sorry, can you repeat that last question, Gertrude?
Asked you there. I'm sure.
Sorry, I can see you're saying something, but I can't hear it. Could you try one more time? Hello, can you hear me?
Um, I can hear you now.
I think you're clearer now too.
Yeah, something happened there. So I might just edit that little section. Something happened. I'll watch it and edit it later.
Okay.
Okay, so we were talking about the author's journey and ideas in terms of how to get your book to market. And I didn't quite hear the tail end of what you were saying.
Okay. So it was
You
around
might
the
want to
IP
just repeat
piece.
that. Yes.
I can't remember what I was saying either. So could you start out with another question and I'll...
Okay, so all of these authors have now finished writing their books and are thinking of creative ways to take their books to market.
Right.
What tips, what ideas could you give them in terms of getting there?
So I guess I'm looking at the book as a key that's going to open a whole bunch of doors that I may not have had access to before, and or it's going to reopen doors that I've already opened. So a book is going to there's one group of people that I've already spoken to. As I'm an author, I'm going to be one of the people on stage as a subject matter expert for them. So it's the key to enabling that process for them. It is the book is going to enable certainly from a thought leadership perspective. The fact that I'm been able to get my content together in a structured fashion. For me, a lot of the speaking work that I've done and am doing is really reflected in the book. In fact, it's almost a direct correlation between the two, which is why I've been able to get the content finished so quickly. So it's really just taking that and kind of turbocharging all those things that I'd be doing in the marketplace, but having been a quoted author, enabling me, as I said, to open more doors with that. So it's getting access to a wider market, being able to send something to someone saying, here's some of my ideas, you know, why don't we run a seminar together?
Yes.
So in the next 3 months, I've got 3 seminars that are going to now be driven on the back of the fact that I have a book.
Fantastic. So workshops and seminars are an outcome of you producing a book. I know that personally, you said the book will open up doors that you weren't even aware were there. I've just come back from the Frankfurt Book Fair, and I think I've shared that with you.
Yeah.
And my book has been picked up by a university in Germany who want me to come and do a book tour in Germany. I have lectured in the academic world, you know, once or twice, but this has kind of shown me another place I can actually position my book. It's a memoir, but it does have a philosophy behind it, and social entrepreneurship is one of the things that I am really passionate about. And I know that you are taking your book to universities and colleges as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. I think one of the really important keys here, Gertrude, is that for a lot of people, for a lot of the content, I know I've thought of myself 3 years ago. A lot of the work that I do now, I'm doing work with a lot different style of businesses and teams than I was 3 years ago. So you might think of your work as you just did and said it's a memoir, but it's really applicable to a lot of different people, and people don't really fully grasp that. I certainly haven't completely understood that, but I'm talking to lots of people that aren't salespeople. I'm talking to executives and people who sell to government, etc. So there's a whole variety of people that your book can relate to. It's just looking at it from a different perspective, from not the writer's perspective, but the reader's. So there's such a wide arena, and it could be just that they want to get an author on stage and talk about that process. I mean, it's all sorts of different things that come from creating this document, and certainly the way you're looked at, as you know, is completely different from just saying, hey, here's my book, to, you know, hey, I'm an expert, or I'm a subject matter expert, or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I thing is that your content can be repurposed by people in from different walks of life. I think JD, the book on how to have an authentic communication with another human being in whatever setting, by putting aside who you are and what your business is and where you're from, and really learning to listen with attention to what the other person is saying. So yes, your book can go to somebody in government in terms of how they can communicate more effectively.
It's really interesting from a if you think a lot of the work that I'm now getting into is purely communication work, which I never thought was relevant to me 4 or 5 years ago. So how do you communicate with someone? How do you understand really where they're at, what they need to do? It's really fundamentally the same concepts and processes. So yeah, there's areas that are not obvious to you when you read the book because of where it's come from, but where it goes to can be a beautiful place.
I think we dropped off again there, but we'll just continue. So JD, I just want to thank you for coming online today and doing this webinar with me. I really hope that all of the authors out there who are struggling with thinking about their books and their ideas, that this webinar has given them a few ways of looking at their content, not just from the tunnel vision of being an author, but from the other end as well, for the people who are going to be potentially buying your books. So thank you again, JD, for coming online. Good luck with your book, and let's keep in touch and probably have another interview in 6 months' time and see how things are going for you as an author and a speaker.
Yeah, thank you. Really, thank you, Gertrude, for the opportunity. If I can give any messages to those, if you told me 5 weeks ago that I would have finished creating a book, have a cover page, be having the conversations that I'm having at the moment, it's all there, it's all possible. As someone who's read a very, very small amount of books, it's quite bizarre that I've now written one. So it's certainly possible for everyone. Don't think of the enormity of the task, just break it down into simple, easy steps, and you too will not only have a book, but potentially have a different career if that's what you're after.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, JD. It's really good catching up with you.
Okay, thank you.